What if the life you've been told to chase isn't the one that will truly set you free? What if happiness, peace, and strength are not found in someone else's arms, but in your own quiet space where no one controls your choices, your time, or your energy? This question shakes everything we've been conditioned to believe, that love and partnership are the ultimate sources of fulfillment. But what if that belief has blinded us to something even more powerful, the courage to stand alone and create a life that is fully, unapologetically yours? Living alone is not a sign of emptiness. It is a declaration of self-worth. It means you have chosen to be the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's script. In solitude, you are not waiting for someone to validate your existence. You are learning to validate yourself. This is not about rejecting relationships. It's about recognizing that the deepest connection you will ever have is with yourself, and that connection must be strong before any other bond can truly bring joy. The beauty of standing alone lies in the freedom to explore who you are without compromise. It allows you to listen to your thoughts, understand your dreams, and nurture your growth without the noise of constant demands. Most people fear solitude because they confuse it with loneliness. But loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of yourself. When you embrace this presence, you discover a source of strength that no relationship can provide. A strength that whispers, "I am enough." And here's where the emotional shift begins. Imagine coming home to an environment designed entirely for your peace. No arguments, no unspoken expectations, no emotional tension draining your spirit. Just calm, just clarity, just the freedom to rest, reflect, and recharge without apology. In this space, you don't have to explain your dreams. You don't have to downplay your ambitions. You don't have to fit into anyone else's definition of what a life should look like. You are free to define it yourself, and that is where true happiness begins. This journey is not about isolation, it's about empowerment. It's about building a life where your happiness is not borrowed from someone else, but built from within. And once you taste that kind of strength, you will never again settle for less than peace, purpose, and freedom. Stay with this message, because what lies ahead will reveal why solitude is not just a choice. It is the foundation of a powerful, unshakable life. By the end, you will see that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is the single most courageous decision you will ever make. Freedom is the rarest gift you can give yourself, and living alone places it directly in your hands. It is the ability to wake up and design your day without compromise, to pursue your passions without hesitation, to move toward your goals without being slowed by someone else's doubts or demands. It is a kind of liberation that many only dream about, but are too afraid to claim, because claiming it means stepping away from the comfort of dependence and choosing the challenge of self-reliance. Think about how much of life is spent adjusting for others, altering plans, shrinking dreams, silencing your needs just to keep the peace. Every compromise may feel small at first, but over time it chips away at your authenticity. Living alone removes that weight. It allows you to make decisions solely for the sake of your own growth, your own happiness, your own future. This is not about selfishness. It is about reclaiming the right to live fully, without apology, without hesitation, without fear. Psychology tells us that autonomy is one of the strongest foundations of life satisfaction. When you control your choices, you control your destiny. When you no longer depend on someone else to dictate your path, your confidence rises. You feel lighter, stronger, more focused. You stop asking for permission to dream, and you start building a life that reflects who you truly are. Freedom gives you the room to explore possibilities that would have been impossible under constant compromise. Imagine the emotional power that comes from knowing every step you take is your own. No one holds you back. No one limits what you can try, where you can go, or who you can become. That is the quiet thrill of independence, a thrill that brings not just relief, but an unstoppable sense of potential. When you live for yourself, you unlock parts of your identity that were buried under the weight of expectation. This freedom also fuels clarity. Without constant negotiation over your choices, you see your values with precision. You learn what really matters to you, not because someone else told you, but because you had the courage to listen to your own voice. And that voice grows stronger every day you choose to stand alone. It becomes a guide, a source of wisdom, a source of calm that no one can take from you. Living alone does more than create space. It creates strength. It proves that you can build a life from the ground up, driven by purpose, not obligation. It shows you that freedom is not a dream, but a decision. And when you taste that decision, you will never again trade it for anything less than the life you were meant to live. Silence is not empty. It is where the deepest parts of you finally speak. When you live alone, the absence of constant noise, arguments, and background chaos becomes a powerful ally. In that quiet space, your thoughts no longer compete with external demands. Your emotions are not drowned out by someone else's moods. You are left with yourself, your real self, and that is where transformation begins. Silence gives you a chance to hear what your heart has been trying to say for years, but was buried under distractions. In solitude, peace takes root, and from peace comes clarity. Clarity about who you are, clarity about what you value, clarity about where you want to go next in life. Most people never find this because they never slow down long enough to listen. They are constantly pulled into the noise of relationships, obligations, and compromise, forgetting that wisdom grows in stillness. Silence allows you to sort through your emotions, face your fears, and reconnect with your purpose in ways that constant companionship cannot provide. The human mind craves quiet moments to reset and renew. Without them, stress builds, thoughts scatter, and decisions are made in haste rather than intention. Living alone offers a sanctuary where reflection becomes a daily ritual instead of a rare luxury. It is in these moments that you learn to trust yourself, to see patterns, to break free from habits that no longer serve you. The stillness becomes a mirror showing you not who others think you are, but who you have always been beneath the noise. Silence also sharpens emotional strength. When you spend time alone, you stop running from your inner world. You face your doubts, your regrets, your hidden dreams, and you do so without judgment from anyone else. This inner work builds resilience. It transforms anxiety into awareness, confusion into focus, fear into fuel. The more you lean into the silence, the more powerful you become because you no longer fear being with yourself. You begin to understand that peace is not found in someone else's presence. It is created within your own. And from this peace comes a quiet confidence that radiates into every area of life. Decisions become easier because your mind is clear. Goals feel closer because your focus is strong. Relationships become healthier because you no longer need them to fill a void. Living alone reveals that silence is not the absence of connection. It is the foundation of it. It teaches you that the truest form of companionship is the one you have with your own soul. And once you feel that connection, no amount of noise will ever tempt you back into chaos. Emotional independence is the turning point where solitude transforms from simple living into powerful self-mastery. It is the moment you stop looking outside yourself for validation, comfort, or a sense of belonging. It is when you realize that no one else is responsible for your happiness, and no one else can take it away once you've learned to generate it from within. This shift is more than freedom. It is strength at its purest form. It is the realization that you are complete, not because someone completes you, but because you finally complete yourself. When you live alone, you are no longer tempted to measure your worth by how much attention or affection you receive from others. You stop trying to fit into roles that please someone else and start embracing the truth of who you are. Emotional independence teaches you that love is not something to chase or beg for. It is something you give yourself, daily through self-respect, self-compassion, and self-growth. The moment you understand this, you stop settling for relationships that drain you and start building a life that elevates you. This level of independence also unlocks an inner calm that no external drama can disturb. When you no longer rely on others to regulate your emotions, you begin to approach life with clarity and control. Challenges no longer feel like threats to your identity or security because your sense of self is rooted deep within, where no one can touch it. This is not about building walls. It is about building foundations so strong that even when life shakes, you stand firm, unbroken, and unafraid. Living alone forces you to master this skill because there is no one to lean on in moments of doubt except yourself. And that is the secret. Learning to lean on yourself is how you become unshakable. You stop fearing solitude, and instead you begin to crave it because it is in these moments of self-reliance that you discover your true capacity for strength. Each day becomes an opportunity to grow your confidence, to test your resilience, to prove to yourself that you can thrive no matter what. With emotional independence comes a higher standard for every part of your life. You stop accepting relationships that compromise your peace. You stop pursuing goals that do not align with your core values. You start making decisions not out of fear of being alone, but out of love for the life you are building. This is the kind of power that cannot be faked or borrowed. It must be earned through the courage to face yourself, trust yourself, and choose yourself over and over again until it becomes second nature. Financial independence is one of the greatest advantages of living alone because it places full control of your resources directly in your hands. Every decision, every expense, and every investment reflects your own priorities, not someone else's expectations or desires. You are no longer pulled into arguments about money or pressured into spending in ways that don't align with your values. Instead, you create a financial life that supports your goals, fuels your growth, and strengthens your sense of security. This is more than numbers. It is about freedom, dignity, and power over your own future. When you take full responsibility for your finances, you begin to see money not as a source of stress, but as a tool of empowerment. You decide what to save, where to invest, and how to spend without fear of judgment or conflict. There is a sense of clarity that comes from knowing that every dollar is a step toward building the life you want. Whether that means traveling, learning new skills, or simply building a safety net, financial independence ensures that your choices are always in service of your vision, not someone else's demands. This independence also builds self-respect. When you earn, manage, and grow your own resources, you develop a deeper sense of capability. You no longer wait for someone else to provide stability because you are creating it yourself. And with that comes confidence, an unshakable belief that you can handle whatever life brings because you are not relying on anyone else to secure your future. That confidence spills into every other area of life, making you bolder in your decisions and braver in your pursuit of dreams. Psychologically, financial control removes one of the greatest sources of anxiety in life, uncertainty. When you know where your money is going and why, you feel grounded and in control. The fear of scarcity fades, replaced by the quiet assurance that you are building towards something better every day. And unlike relationships where financial tension can erode trust and peace, living alone ensures that your financial life is free from unnecessary conflict. It becomes a reflection of your discipline, your focus, and your determination to create a future that excites you. The deeper reward is not just security, but freedom of choice. You are free to invest in yourself without compromise, free to chase opportunities without hesitation, free to walk away from anything that does not align with your values because your stability does not depend on someone else's support. Financial independence is more than money. It is proof of your strength, your resilience, and your ability to create the life you truly deserve. It reminds you that freedom, once earned, becomes the foundation for everything else you are capable of becoming. Growth becomes inevitable when you are no longer held back by the compromises that come with constant negotiation. Living alone provides a rare opportunity to focus entirely on becoming the person you are meant to be. Without the distractions of conflict, expectation, or emotional demands, your energy flows toward progress rather than preservation. Every day becomes a chance to expand your skills, sharpen your mindset, and move closer to the life you once only imagined. It is a state where potential turns into action, and action turns into transformation. Personal growth thrives in solitude because it forces you to face yourself honestly. There is no one to blame for wasted time, no one to lean on for motivation, no one to hide behind when fear creeps in. It is just you and the choice to rise. That choice, repeated daily, becomes the foundation of discipline and self-belief. You learn to push beyond limitations, not because someone else expects it, but because you expect it from yourself. This is where real progress begins, not from pressure, but from purpose. When your time and energy belong to you alone, exploration becomes limitless. You can learn new skills, pursue new passions, or take risks that might have been impossible under constant compromise. Every challenge becomes a chance to prove your capability, and every success fuels the next step. This is the psychology of self-actualization, reaching the highest version of yourself, not through external validation, but through relentless self-improvement born from freedom. Growth also brings a sense of renewal. The more you evolve, the more you shed old versions of yourself that no longer serve who you are becoming. You release limiting beliefs, fears, and habits picked up from years of living for others. You begin to see life as a journey of expansion rather than a routine of survival. This shift is powerful because it transforms not only how you live, but how you think, how you feel, and how you see your own worth. The beauty of living alone is that this growth is fully yours. Every achievement is the result of your decisions. Every breakthrough reflects your courage to keep moving forward. And the deeper you grow, the more magnetic your life becomes, not because you are chasing approval, but because you are radiating strength from within. People feel that energy, opportunities are drawn to it, and life responds to it with greater abundance. True growth is not about becoming someone else, it is about uncovering the person you were always meant to be. Living alone removes the noise, clears the path, and gives you the space to rise without limits. It reminds you that becoming your best self is not a distant dream. It is a daily decision, one that begins the moment you choose to stand fully in your own power. Control over your environment is one of the greatest gifts solitude provides. Every detail of your living space reflects your choices, your energy, and your values. There are no compromises about how things should look, feel, or function. No subtle arguments over routines or daily habits. Instead, you create an atmosphere designed entirely for your peace and productivity. This is not about luxury, it is about alignment. When your surroundings match your vision, your mind finds calm, your body finds rest, and your spirit finds strength. This sense of control extends beyond physical space. It seeps into your schedule, your habits, and the rhythm of your life. You decide when to rise, when to work, when to recharge. You decide what rituals nourish your body, what practices feed your mind, and what boundaries protect your well-being. There is no need to explain, justify, or compromise because every choice serves one purpose: to bring you closer to balance and fulfillment. This is where personal power truly grows, when your daily life reflects the values you hold highest. Psychologically, control creates a sense of stability that few people ever experience. It reduces stress by eliminating unnecessary friction. It fosters confidence by reinforcing the idea that you are capable of shaping your world. And it generates a quiet joy that comes from living on your own terms. When you walk into a space that feels like an extension of your mind and heart, you feel safe, inspired, and deeply connected to yourself. That connection fuels motivation, clarity, and a profound sense of peace. Control also means you can curate the energy that surrounds you. There is no room for negativity, no tolerance for drama, no intrusion of emotional noise. Your home becomes a sanctuary, not because it is silent, but because it is intentional. Every object, every routine, every decision carries purpose. And that purpose reminds you daily that you are not merely existing, you are creating a life worth living. This is the kind of empowerment that makes solitude not just bearable, but beautiful. With this level of autonomy, distractions lose their power. You no longer waste energy navigating conflicts or negotiating compromises that dilute your vision. Instead, you channel that energy into building, improving, and expanding what matters most. The more control you exercise over your space and your life, the more momentum you build toward becoming your highest self. And the deeper you go into this process, the clearer it becomes. Peace is not something you stumble upon by chance. It is something you design, one deliberate choice at a time. Living alone gives you that design, that freedom, and that power to live as the truest version of yourself. Toxic energy is one of the most destructive forces to mental and emotional well-being, and solitude acts as a shield against it. When you live alone, you are no longer absorbing the constant stream of moods, frustrations, and conflicts that others carry into your space. You are free from the subtle tension of walking on eggshells or the exhaustion of managing someone else's emotions alongside your own. This release creates space for calm, clarity, and renewal, a space where your peace is no longer negotiable. It becomes the standard by which you live. Negativity spreads like a silent contagion. Being around it too long can cloud judgment, lower self-worth, and drain motivation. Living alone eliminates this drain, allowing your mind and body to reset to a natural state of balance. Stress levels decrease. Creativity returns, even your physical health benefits as your environment becomes one of restoration instead of resistance. Every day without unnecessary conflict is a day where energy flows toward growth rather than damage control. This kind of emotional cleansing is not just about avoiding arguments or tension, it is about reclaiming the purity of your inner world. When the noise of negativity fades, your thoughts become clearer. You can hear your own instincts again. You begin to recognize what truly matters and release what doesn't. The absence of toxic influence creates room for gratitude, focus, and self-discovery to flourish. You stop reacting to chaos and start responding to life with purpose and intention. Protecting your energy also strengthens your boundaries. Once you experience life without constant emotional interference, you become unwilling to let it return. You start recognizing which people, habits, and situations disrupt your peace and which ones nurture it. And from that awareness comes courage. The courage to say no, to step back, to choose yourself unapologetically. This is not about building walls to keep people out. It is about creating filters to let only what uplifts you in. The beauty of a life free from toxic energy is the space it opens for better things. Joy feels lighter. Motivation feels stronger. Creativity feels natural. When your mind is no longer preoccupied with surviving emotional storms, it has room to thrive, to imagine, to create. Every moment in that peaceful space reminds you of one truth. You deserve to feel this way, not just occasionally, but always. Solitude makes this possible. It gives you permission to clear the clutter of negative energy and build an environment where your spirit can rest and your mind can grow. It proves that peace is not a luxury, but a necessity. And once you feel its depth, you will fight to protect it for the rest of your life. Creativity thrives where the mind is free, and solitude provides the perfect environment for that freedom to unfold. When you live alone, there are no interruptions pulling you away from your ideas, no background noise drowning out your thoughts, no pressure to mold your passions to fit someone else's expectations. Your time, your space, and your energy belong fully to you, allowing inspiration to rise naturally. This is where new visions are born, not in chaos, but in the stillness where your imagination has room to breathe. Without constant distractions, your thoughts begin to flow in ways you may have never experienced. You start to notice the quiet sparks of curiosity, the small whispers of possibility, and the bold flashes of vision that had been buried under noise. Solitude gives you permission to follow those sparks, to explore what excites you without fear of judgment, and to bring ideas to life with a sense of purpose that cannot be rushed. Each creative moment feels deeper because it comes from a place of authenticity rather than obligation. Living alone also removes the limits of compromise. You do not need to explain why you want to dedicate hours to a passion project, why you rearrange your schedule to learn something new, or why you invest resources into what excites you. Your energy is yours to channel, and that autonomy ignites a level of focus that transforms dreams into progress. The absence of external resistance creates an internal momentum that only grows stronger with time. This creative freedom extends beyond art or work. It becomes a way of living. You begin to see life itself as a canvas, shaped by your vision, your habits, and your choices. You experiment with new routines, explore different interests, and approach each day with a mindset of possibility. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" you start asking, "What can I create?" That question shifts everything, turning ordinary days into opportunities for growth and fulfillment. Psychologically, creativity is more than expression. It is healing. It releases stress, fuels optimism, and builds confidence. When you create, you remind yourself that you are capable of shaping your reality, not just enduring it. You see proof of your own potential in every new skill learned, every idea explored, every project completed. This becomes a source of pride that no relationship can replace because it is born from your own courage to embrace solitude. The more you create, the more alive you feel. The more alive you feel, the more you realize solitude was never about being alone. It was about finding the space to become. Living alone hands you that space, that freedom, and that opportunity to turn your life into something extraordinary, one inspired choice at a time. Living alone does not mean closing yourself off from others. It means elevating the quality of the connections you choose to keep. When your happiness no longer depends on constant validation or companionship, you approach relationships from a place of strength rather than fear. You no longer cling to people out of loneliness. You invite them into your life because their presence adds value, inspiration, and meaning, not because you need them to fill a void. This shift changes everything. Solitude teaches you to appreciate the difference between connection and attachment. Connection is rooted in mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care. Attachment often stems from insecurity or fear of being alone. When you live alone and learn to stand firmly in your own worth, the need for attachment dissolves. You no longer settle for relationships that drain your energy or compromise your peace. Instead, you cultivate connections that feel light, uplifting, and purposeful. This level of discernment transforms how you interact with others. You become more present, more authentic, and more selective about who earns a place in your life. The pressure to impress or conform fades away because your sense of self is already complete. You bring wholeness into every interaction, which allows you to give more, love deeper, and connect with clarity rather than fear. Healthy relationships are born from this foundation. When you no longer expect someone else to define your happiness, you stop placing unrealistic demands on them. You offer your presence freely, without the weight of expectation, and you receive theirs with gratitude, not dependency. This creates a kind of connection that feels liberating instead of confining, one that enriches your life without controlling it. Solitude also reveals who truly values you for who you are. When you are no longer afraid to be alone, you naturally filter out people who only stayed because of convenience or emotional dependence. What remains are the rare, genuine connections, friends, partners, or mentors, who respect your independence and celebrate your growth. These bonds are far stronger than those built on fear because they are chosen with intention. Living alone, you learn to appreciate relationships not as a necessity but as a gift. They are no longer the center of your identity but an extension of it. You know you can thrive without them, which makes their presence sweeter and their absence less painful. This is the kind of freedom that allows love to flourish without fear of loss, and friendship to deepen without the burden of need. True connection is no longer about finding someone to complete you. It is about sharing your completeness with someone worthy of it. Freedom begins to take on a deeper meaning when solitude becomes a chosen state rather than a feared one. It is no longer just the absence of company, it is the presence of self-mastery. In this space, you learn to create peace rather than search for it. You understand that fulfillment is not hidden in someone else's approval, attention, or affection. It resides in the strength of your own inner foundation. This realization dissolves the illusions that once made you feel dependent, and it awakens a new kind of confidence that cannot be shaken by circumstances or people. Each day lived in this awareness sharpens your sense of clarity. You begin to notice how much of life is spent chasing external things that were never meant to provide lasting happiness, status, validation, or constant distraction. Yet, in stillness, you discover that true contentment requires far less than you imagined. It is built on simple but profound principles: self-respect, intentional living, and the courage to stand by your values, no matter how loud the world becomes. Living alone helps you reclaim your time, energy, and emotional space from things that no longer serve your growth. It forces you to evaluate the environments you allow yourself to enter, the habits you choose to maintain, and the standards you set for your life. With no one else to blame and no distractions to hide behind, you learn accountability at the highest level. Every decision carries weight because every choice reflects the kind of life you are creating for yourself. This is where transformation begins. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it. You no longer settle for routines that keep you stagnant or relationships that pull you backward. You build rituals that strengthen your mind, nourish your body, and expand your soul. You rise with intention, not just to pass another day, but to evolve beyond who you were yesterday. Each moment becomes an opportunity to align your actions with the person you know you are capable of becoming. This inner alignment produces an unshakable sense of peace, a peace that does not collapse under pressure or fade in the face of uncertainty. It is the kind of peace that radiates outward, affecting every area of your life. Opportunities feel clearer because you no longer chase everything that glitters. You pursue only what aligns with your highest self. People sense your energy shift, not because of what you say, but because of the calm confidence you carry. The greatest reward of living alone is realizing that you were never incomplete to begin with. Everything you thought you needed to find in others was already within you, waiting to be claimed. And once you step into that truth, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you finally learned how to stand unshaken, no matter how it unfolds. Strength is not built in comfort. It is forged in the quiet hours where no one is watching and no applause is given. It is born in the moments where discipline must replace distraction and purpose must outweigh temptation. When you choose to build yourself from within, you rise above the need for external reassurance. You no longer measure your worth by fleeting opinions or temporary approval. Instead, you anchor yourself in an unshakable truth that your value was never dependent on being seen, but on becoming someone you yourself are proud to meet every day. This level of self-mastery requires more than wishful thinking. It demands deliberate action. Each decision becomes a statement of who you are becoming. Every choice, whether small or significant, becomes a step toward integrity or a step away from it. When no one is around to hold you accountable, your reflection becomes the only witness to your standards. And when you meet your own eyes with respect, knowing you chose growth over comfort, strength over ease, your confidence evolves into something unbreakable. Discomfort becomes a signal, not of fear, but of expansion. The challenges you once avoided become opportunities to test the limits of your resilience. Doubt becomes fuel. Pressure becomes proof that you are stepping beyond the familiar and into the extraordinary. You stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to be stronger. And as that strength builds, so does your sense of freedom. Not freedom from struggle, but freedom from the fear of it. This transformation does not happen overnight. It is shaped by persistence. It is the silent commitment to show up for yourself day after day without needing recognition or validation. It is the refusal to compromise with mediocrity, even when no one would know the difference. Over time, this discipline becomes identity. You no longer need to remind yourself to rise to your potential. It becomes your natural state. What once felt like sacrifice now feels like liberation. The habits that once seemed demanding become the very pillars that hold up your life. The discipline you once resisted becomes the source of your deepest pride. And the strength you once doubted becomes undeniable, etched into the way you think, act, and carry yourself. People will notice a difference, but their recognition will feel secondary, almost insignificant compared to the quiet power you hold within. The truth is simple, yet profound. No one can build this for you. No one can hand you the life you are capable of living. It is earned, not in grand gestures, but in countless small moments where you choose courage over comfort, vision over distraction, and integrity over convenience. In doing so, you become proof that the greatest transformation is not found in changing your world, but in mastering yourself. Greatness begins in the moments when excuses are silenced, when comfort is rejected, and when the mind chooses resolve over hesitation. Every individual possesses a reserve of untapped potential, but it remains dormant until it is called upon through deliberate choice. The will to act, even when fear lingers, even when doubt whispers, is what transforms ordinary existence into extraordinary living. Strength of character is built not when things are easy, but when the soul is tested by adversity, and the heart chooses to rise instead of retreat. There is an undeniable truth about growth. It does not ask for permission, and it does not wait for convenience. It requires you to step forward when the path is uncertain, to lean into the very challenges that once made you shrink, and to refuse to be defined by your previous limitations. Each obstacle you face becomes a chance to refine your courage, to sculpt your mindset, and to affirm that you are no longer governed by fear. The discomfort that once made you hesitate becomes the very signal that you are moving closer to your highest self. Discipline carves identity. When you choose to hold yourself to a standard that surpasses comfort, you begin to carry yourself differently. Confidence ceases to be a mask and becomes an unshakable truth that radiates from the inside out. The way you speak, think, and act begins to shift. Decisions are no longer driven by impulse or convenience, but by alignment with who you are becoming. Each day becomes proof that you are not waiting for life to change. You are changing yourself to meet life with power. The mind, once conditioned to seek ease, now hungers for challenge. The body, once hesitant to endure pressure, now thrives under its weight. And the spirit, once restless and uncertain, now stands anchored in a deep sense of purpose. You no longer crave validation because you have something far greater, self-respect earned through action, through consistency, through choosing growth in the face of difficulty. What you once saw as limits now appear as illusions, shadows cast by fear, waiting to be dissolved by courage. Each breakthrough reveals a higher level of strength, and with each level, your vision expands. You begin to understand that greatness was never about reaching a destination. It was about becoming the kind of person who refuses to quit, who refuses to accept less than their full capacity. And as this realization takes root, an unspoken truth becomes clear. No external force can shape you more powerfully than the choices you make in silence. No applause, no praise, no recognition compares to the quiet pride of knowing you are building yourself into someone extraordinary. Not someday, but in this very moment, one unshakable choice at a time.